Nothing. Oh hi, I got given this absolutely fantastic Tigerbark Ficus. I've got absolutely no idea how to trim or what to do with this. My daughter said there's something called YouTube, so I thought I'd have a look and find out what's on there. So
hi everyone, Nigel Saunders for KW
Nigel
Bonsai.
Saunders, KW Bonsai.
We're looking at the...
Wow, so they do bonsai on YouTube as well. Sounds a bit Canadian to me. This YouTube just isn't going to catch on, I don't think. But I tell you what, why don't we watch this, find out if there's anything useful, and hey, may well help me develop this ficus into something special. Hiya, it's Xavier and welcome to my bonsai retreat. We've now flashed forward 8 or so years. It's 2023. Gone are the old cine cameras and grainy pictures, and now we're back to quality, which is what you can come to expect from me, I hope. Certainly not the trees, but maybe my filming and my editing. Anyway, you want to know about my top 5 YouTube influencers and how they've impacted me. And I'm going to say this to you right now with a pointy finger like that. There's going to be a couple of names that you won't hear that maybe might surprise you.
Surprised?
The way this is going to work is, looking at me talking can be boring at the best of times. I have got some ficus which I'm literally just going to be cutting back to a couple of leaves. I'm not doing any styling per se. I just want to cut the growth back while we're in this semi-dormant period, so I can just stay in control of the bugs and stuff like that. So I'll be whittling away at these while I talk, but most of the time when I talk about whoever the creator is, there'll be an overlay of video from their channel, just to ensure we don't have any copyright issues. I'm sure there won't be. All the creators whose videos I use will be mentioned in the description, and it's all favourable. So if there are any issues with that from the creators who see this, please let me know. I'm quite happy to cut you from the video, but I'm sure you don't want me to do that. Anyway, let's crack on. Now, as you well know from my previous video all about my top 5, I think it was my top 5 bonsai books, I talked about there are some limitations with books, and one of them is that once printed it doesn't get amended. They can cost a bit of money, and if it's not your particular learning style, then the pictures are nice but they don't often bring your skills further forward. And in many ways I could probably say that was one of my limitations. But I whacked in inquiry for bonsai, and guess who came up? It was Nigel Saunders.
So here we go.
And he was talking about, I think it was his greenhouse or stuff like that. So I started watching it. Nigel's first video I think came up in the 12th of February 2014. It was literally a minute long.
Welcome to the official channel of the Kitchen at Waterloo Bonsai Society.
In June the 10th 2014 his second video came out, just 4 months later. And this is the first time I think we actually get to hear Nigel talk.
Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders for KW Bonsai.
And even I have to agree that his voice certainly got a bit higher as he's got older. In fact, his voice has got as high as his hair has got tall. You're going to hate me, Nigel, I know you are. As I say, just cutting back here, getting rid of all the unnecessary branches. I said I wasn't going to do a styling, but it looks like I am. Be fine. This second video of his, I think it had 19,000 views. It was also the first opportunity to see his greenhouse and his tropicals. I think it was called Bonsai Greenhouse for Tropicals. He also introduced us to his first appearance of his apple, which I know has been through the wars over the years, and also his larch forest. And it was that got me straight away, his larch forest. Absolutely loved it, and from then on I continued to follow him. However, we still hadn't seen Nigel at this stage, so when did we first see him? I think we have to go all the way to his 5th video, which is pruning a white cedar.
Hi, we're back from looking at cedar trees. When you're styling a tree, it's important to do some research, study what the natural form of the tree is.
And I think this is when I recognised that what he was bringing to bonsai was the importance of sticking to nature and nature's designs. And even then he was taking you out into the forest or showing you pictures of what some of these trees would look like in the wild, and that got me straight away. So I watched everything Nigel produced from that day onwards, to be fair. And on top of that, I think Nigel came across as someone who was just a hobbyist. His techniques just seemed very, very natural, and that made it easy and accessible for me, and it took the fear out of bonsai. And hopefully a lot of you will also agree with me on that front. I say here, I'm just clipping back to twos as I go around. And probably this is an example of also what I learnt most from Nigel, and learning you can be quite hard on the way you prune these. And I think for many of us, we struggle to believe just how much you can take off, and you just can't get that. I found that you just can't get that from books, that confidence to actually do it, because when you see someone remove everything off a tree, and then you see the tree 6 months later and realise that actually it's still alive, you go, actually, I think this guy knows what he's talking about. Okay, I think that's as far as I'm going to go. It's got the honeydew on there, so I certainly am going to be giving them a spray. I don't know if you can see, but just here, got some aerial roots. Never had those developed before. Final thing that Nigel taught me, really did actually, is the importance of a root structure. And he's always, and he hasn't changed in his approach, stressed time and time again, you build your tree from the roots first. And again, you know, he was able to demonstrate very, very quickly that you could take as much root away potentially as you used to with branches. It was a revolution to me watching some of those videos where he'd start off with this big mat of roots and it looked like the Hair Bear Bunch.
Help! It's the Hair Bear Bunch!
And by the end of it he'd say, yeah, I think we're there, and there'd be like 3 straggling roots all spaced out. But again, you'd see the tree 6 months later and it was thriving. But yeah, so Nigel, thank you for that. It's because of you that other people are inflicted with my painful humour and painful trees. And either way now, reducing that down to just the 2 forked branches. During this same period, I was trying to find people who were local to me, and in those times I was living somewhere around about Maidstone, so I was looking in that London area because, as you know, climate makes a massive, massive difference. And I found 2 particular channels that I really got on well with. The first of those was MaKeBonsai, and that's Mark, I don't know if it's Mark de la Cruz. He was just doing, and they were like little short 2 to 3 minutes, and he had a lovely species guide section. But I think his first video was how to care for Chinese elm, and that was October 7th, 2014. And I learned a lot right then about how to manage the Chinese elm, and that was the time when I was quite happily killing these Chinese elm that I bought from garden centres. Okay, so that one's butchered and reduced down to nothing. Let's find another one. His last video I saw him was March the 26th, 2018. He taught me everything about crabapple actually, because I always found them a difficult one, but did enjoy what he did with crabapple. Where are we going to go with this? I'm just wondering whether to take off these wiggly branches down here and just start growing up. Now around this time, 2014, 2015, I also discovered was a guy called mikbonsai, MIKBonsai, I think it was Iqbal. And again, very, very straight. In fact, his earliest video, I think July 15th, 2012.
Hello everyone, today I'm working with this hawthorn. I acquired it from a collector, and it was wired up, and I think it is in a totally wrong position.
And you can tell it's odd because of how it comes out and how grainy. I think in those days we were like getting 360 or 480, whatever the doodahs are, rather than 1080, 1440 and the stuff we're getting now. But again, his information was brilliant, and he, for me, was the master of the Fuji cherry.
Hello, I'm Iqbal Khan and welcome to MaKeBonsai. Today I'm going to be working on my Fuji cherry tree, which is also known as Kojonome. I last worked on it over a year ago.
And I watched a number of his videos about Fuji cherry, and you know, he really did spark my love and interest in them. And again, made me realise that, you know, they're not difficult. Because of course, when you get something that flowers so early in the year, you get confused about when you can prune it. Do I prune the flowers off, everything? So for a newbie, that can be quite a daunting species. But he took away the fear for me on that one. In fact, Iqbal used to do, certainly on some of his later videos, did little jokes at the end. And that just made him more human and real to me. Yeah, I'm not sure quite what happened with Iqbal. I'm guessing that, you know, he was getting older. Do I get rid of that? Not sure. I don't like this conglomeration here. I could do with something further back, to be fair. Let's see if we can encourage it to back bud by just removing some growth here. It does amaze with ficus. They do nothing for you for 9 months and suddenly they'll throw out a load of back budding. So I never totally give up on a branch. There are two creators that I consider in the same sort of vein. One of them was Bjorn of ICN, where he started his own stuff. But I love Bjorn because of his travel vlogs when he was in Japan. Absolutely thought they were fantastic to watch.
So you want to be a bonsai apprentice? Let's talk about it.
And his content really good, you know. I think he also worked on Bonsai Empire as well. But the one that really stood out for me and made a massive impact and change to my whole bonsai ethos was Ryan Neal, who's started and had BonsaiMirai going for quite a while now. I will say at this point, I think Bjorn did probably one of the most catching thumbnails for a video. And probably only because my mind is in the gutter. And yeah, he was in Spain and he was definitely dealing with pine. But yeah, I don't think you could take the schoolyard out of that one. Yeah, no, there's no doubt that when I first came across Ryan Neal, I think it was with the BSOP series. It was the Spring Fundamentals. And I think that's when I suddenly realised I could understand, because his famous words for me was,
what is happening right now? What's happening with our trees right now?
And I think that sums up the ethos. He watches the tree, and yes, he's got a pile of knowledge. You know, he was apprenticed to Master Kimura in Japan, so he's got credibility. He's got the credentials. But for me, he had the teaching prowess as well. Because I know some people think he's a bit pedantic, over labours points, talks to you like you're a bit dim.
I'm told I can be a bit dim.
Me too.
You know what? I don't care, because he can tell me something 3, 4, 5, 6 times over and I will eat it up, because my learning style likes that. And I don't mind being talked down to if I'm getting the knowledge I want. And I recognise that with him, I think, it's just his sheer enthusiasm and love of bonsai, and that's how he comes across. But I would never ever, the nuggets he comes out with just makes everything worthwhile. And he changed, as I say, the whole way I approach bonsai. What on earth do I do with that branch? I think I'm going to have to get rid of it. It's a great big long leggy thing. No, I may just get rid of that actually. Why not? By the way, I'm quite happy hacking away with these. These are all cuttings from the mother plant. They're all sort of 4 or 5 years old now. And these are my learning, this is my learning material. You know, I observe and watch as Ryan Neal taught what and how these are impacted by the things I do. That's Spring Fundamentals, just the understanding of plant physiology and biology just changed it. Suddenly I wasn't looking for those set calendars, and I talked about it in the books. We have notes, you know, in April the 17th, that's when you prune, that's when, or 20th of June, that's when you, and you know, perhaps for those of you who've got a lot more common sense, you go, well, that would be silly to go directly to a rote calendar. But literally that's what I did, and I didn't look at the tree. I just looked at my notes, said, now is the time I must do this. Funny how a lot of my trees didn't survive those early years. And I think probably for many of us, I think there were 4 or 5 in that BSOP series. There was a whole series of things, and it was as a direct result of those that I then discovered that he was starting this BonsaiMirai, or he just started it. It's the first time I actually paid money to become a member of something. I don't regret any of the money spent on the membership for Mirai. I learned so much about about all species. There was just so many species he covers, and because he does it in that slow, laborious, very wordy way, I get the time to look at what he's doing. He repeats the techniques so often. I mean, I learned wiring techniques from a couple of his videos. He just got old branches, clamped them to a bench, and went through all the different wiring techniques. From that day onwards, I started practicing and using wire. So Ryan Neal of BonsaiMirai, another massive influence on me. You know, I'm going to say now, there's a number of different channels I'll watch for particular things. We've got Bonsai, got Greenwood, Terry Erasmus, Aussie Bonsai Bloke, and all my wishes are with him in his current situation. I've talked about Tony Tickle with Yous. We had Dave Blue Sky Bonsai. Sometimes it's when you're going for a particular species, there are particular people who do great videos on them that sort of catch your eye or your particular learning style. So that's why I've got such a wide range on my my bonsai feed. But there's one other. Although he didn't influence how I did bonsai, he made an emotional impact on me, but also was just entertaining to watch, because at the time he came out, I too was just thinking about doing a bonsai channel. I had suddenly sort of gone down the lines of I was going to start a nursery. He too was looking at a very sort of similar situation. We shared some one or two emails, and I just got the feeling that we were in a similar place, but the difference was that he was ready to go forward and do it. And the person I'm talking about is Darren of grobonsai, whose popularity just shot up.
I'm not jealous.
Certainly through that period when a lot of people were spending time indoors. Probably the best way of putting it. I think the first video was Chinese Elm Bonsai Care. It's that 16th of December 2018.
Hi YouTube, I'm Darren George. Well, it's mid-December and here in the UK it's grey.
88,000 views it's had. So I watched his stuff and it was entertaining. It was, again, it's very sort of, here I am, hobbyist, this is what I do, didn't spout out to be, I don't think there was ever any sort of feeling of pretentiousness of, I've got all this extra knowledge that I'm going to pass on to you. It was just, hey, I'm the bloke around the corner and this is what I do. I love this. This is a branch I cut off the big tree. And no, it's not on the rock, but I like putting rocks beside things, you know that. This is an Orkney rock. And if you don't know why that's important, then you need to watch my Orkney series, which is where I always go on my retreats. So yeah, anyway, so Darren produced very, very usable, realistic, relevant content, especially for the UK. And again, it was nice to see more UK related YouTubers coming onto the scene. So, they're the five, and at the end, I'll just let you know who my number one and number two is. As I said, there's loads there I haven't mentioned, and when we're in a big community like this, it's horrible, because I could talk about loads and loads of creators who've influenced me or I've enjoyed watching. So if I haven't mentioned anyone that, perhaps felt I should have, I'm sorry and I apologise for that. But as you'll find at the end, I'll let you know exactly how many YouTube channels I watch. In fact, right now, hit pause, write down in your comments how many bonsai channels you think I am subscribed to, and actually make an active point of watching and trying to comment on. Be interested to see how many you think that might be.
Not really.
So that's my breakdown of my biggest influencers. If you want to find out who I think the best newcomer is of the sort of 21-22, and also the best newcomer that I've picked up in the last sort of 6 months, then hang around, because I'm going to talk about those in a minute. Now, I've deliberately left off the 5 or 6 of us that all started around the sort of February, March, April of 2022. And I left them alone because if I started picking people from that selection, then I'm only going to upset everyone else. Now, I bet you want to know who I think my standout bonsai YouTubers were for this period. And I'm talking predominantly around the 22, early 23. And I've got 2. Now, one of them I've mentioned before, and it's Arkeftos Bonsai. He's works out in Greece, but absolute inspirational views and inspirational trees. And he's got probably one of the better collections of pines and the junipers. When he works on them, it's all using subtitles, but it's very simple. But the techniques and trees he demonstrates are just wow, blow my mind. And when you add to that the incredible scenery from his, I don't know whether it's a hotel or restaurant balcony, it's just worth seeing. If you haven't seen Arkeftos Bonsai, then you need you really do need to at least have a look at one or two of them. And again, there'll be links in the descriptions to these. Now the other one I'm going to talk about is someone who I sort of lay along the similar sort of route that I go with my bonsai. It's very hands-on and, you know, enthusiastic, and it's Tom of TheBonsaiZone. And he's from Germany, and I'm learning German, which is how I found him. My German's nowhere near as good, but I'm using it to practice my German, and he does some really interesting stuff. Again, if you're looking for a more international flavour at a hobbyist level, and that's not meant as an insult, I certainly consider myself hobbyist, then give Tom of TheBonsaiZone a look. If you don't understand German, whack the subtitles on. It comes across well enough. So, they're the ones I have been watching, but I did say I was going to introduce a newcomer. And again, I don't want to come across as condescending, because the newcomer I introduce knows clearly so much more about bonsai than I do. She has her own studio, she sets up exhibitions, and that's one of her recent videos. But I was just blown away again by her humility and just the grace of the trees she has. And who I'm referring to is Anne of MaKeBonsai. What made it even better for me is that she comes from my hometown in Melbourne, so there's a connection there. But if you haven't seen MaKeBonsai, you definitely need to skip across to her channel. So that's my newcomer for 23, and as I say, this is just my take on things, and who am I in the world of bonsai? Who am I? But hopefully you'll find some new places to watch. Hopefully you've also enjoyed my rundown of my top 5 YouTube influencers, and I'll say it again, you know, 2 of them, definitely. Ryan Neal changed my whole ethos and philosophy to bonsai in terms of biology and physiology. It was at that point that I was able to basically put the books down and start looking at the tree, and I don't think it takes much to acknowledge Nigel Saunders as a hobbyist who has shown that just through patience, learning, you can achieve some incredible trees. You know, the likes of that larch group, or his early Penjings, his Portulacularis, I always get that wrong. But no, an absolute inspiration to anyone who's just picking up some bonsai tools and saying, hey, can I do this?
Maybe someday in spring it'll be covered in flowers. That would be quite a sight. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.
So, I'll say again, big apology if I haven't mentioned people out there that, you know, assumed I'd mention them. It's always difficult when you have to pick your top 5 influencers or anything like that. There are so many different channels that, you know, I could have mentioned, and it's probably worth saying, at the moment I've got 113 YouTube channels on my feed. I still, on a weekly basis, quickly work through and see if there's any new ones, any new videos that have come out. And that's a full-time job in itself.
Finally, a real job.
So I do keep an eye out. I'm sure this has gone on for long enough, and we must be fast approaching Christmas by now. So hopefully I might actually, for my next video, have something that actually relates to bonsai. I've got a funny feeling you're going to see me delve into the unknown world of Picea, a tree that I said I'd never ever touch, and yeah, I had to go with it, but I'll leave that for the next video, I think. Anyway, if you like that, big thumbs up. If you want to see more or hear about future videos, you've got to subscribe and hit ding ding the bell notifications. I know Sue likes it when the bell goes. And again, just thank you everyone for taking the time to watch my content. Happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.